Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Soulful Abundance Festival. I'm your host, Elise Preston, founder of Be More Connected, and today I am so excited to be here with bodywork practitioner Goldie Choi. Welcome, Goldie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for tuning in to this interview.
Yes, so excited to have you. And Goldie Choi is a bodywork practitioner using a combination of modalities, including Reiki, somatics, and her knowledge as a nurse. She's based in Queens, New York, and she is also someone who has had a deep exposure to Eastern medicine as a child through her grandfather, who was an acupuncturist, and through her mother, who often used integrative medicine modalities. She first experienced Reiki through a Reiki certified nurse at her workplace. And after experiencing severe burnout and frustration, something I can also relate to, and some of the gaps in Western medicine as a nurse, she really wanted to explore how she could be more aligned with this world of holistic healing, healing some of the misconceptions around self care. And Goldie started taking the time to learn the tools to move and process through tough moments. And this led her to dream and discover possibilities of embodying a holistic and sustainable way of living for herself and the collective. And I would love to be able to start off, Goldie, by hearing a bit more about your practice and the spaces that you hold with folks.
Yeah, definitely. For a while, I was calling the spaces that I hold liminal spaces, and liminality is the in between of where you are and where you're going or who you're becoming,
Mm.
which is a lot of the moments that we kind of get stuck in, and we feel like kind of stuck in time almost. And so the spaces that I hold for people is kind of a space for us to slow down because
Mm.
oftentimes we rush through the moments of rest and we only glorify and praise the moments of productivity without
Mm.
realizing that the moments of rest is really what brings us there and helps us
Yes.
actually do the productive thing. And so the spaces that I hold gives everyone a moment to really slow down, to give themselves 90 minutes just to themselves, to turn inwards and to reconnect with their body, with their mind, because we're always on the go. And when we don't slow down to process the things that we're experiencing, it's still there in the back burner and our body stores it.
Mm.
Eventually, when we don't slow down and we don't tend to those things, the same way that your physical body can heal from cuts and bruises, our mental body, our mental well-being also can heal when it has an optimal space to do so. But
Yes.
unfortunately, when we don't slow down, we don't give it that time and space. And so I love to just let everyone come as they are. There's no judgment, no attachment. It's a safe space. And it is really a place for your body to shift from your sympathetic nervous system into your parasympathetic nervous system. So with body work, it helps our body shift from fight or flight into this place of restorative mode. And in
Yes.
that space, the things that we haven't been tending to will come back up to the surface
Mm.
in a more grounded environment where we won't get re-triggered or re-traumatized or have a cathartic response to it, but we will be able to reflect upon it and expand from it and learn from it and move through the situation or the emotions that come up that hasn't been processed previously.
Ah, so, so deeply powerful. And I love the way you talked about it being so necessary for us to be able to have that time and space to actually slow down. That that's
Mhm.
not something that is, you know, widely accessible, and that that
Mhm.
is really not the way that, not the energy that we're particularly plugged into in our culture. It's
Yeah.
always moving in such a
Yeah.
fast-paced way. And for folks maybe who aren't familiar with Reiki, would love if you could actually break this down a bit and share about how this tool with energy work is able to support people.
Yeah, for sure. So Reiki is a Japanese healing modality. It's energy medicine. And a lot of people ask me like, what is energy and how does that work?
Yeah.
And so if you go into physics, everything in this universe is made of energy. If you zoom into any object, even ourselves, if you get really, really close, there's subatomic particles that are basically bouncing off of each other, and that
Mm.
movement is energy.
Yeah.
Um, and so with Reiki, um, there is science behind that. We all have an energetic fingerprint, basically, and that we all have a frequency that we flow at.
Mm.
When we experience anything traumatic or stressful, chronic stress, anything that leaves an imprint almost, disrupts that flow, that natural flow of our energy. And so when that happens, your energy kind of gets lower. Like you'll feel ungrounded. You might feel unsafe in your body. You're more easily triggered. You're not able to differentiate what's yours and what's other people's, like thoughts, emotions,
Mm.
all of those things, when you're not able to hone in on your own frequency. And so what Reiki does is when someone becomes a Reiki practitioner, they become attuned to this life force energy that already exists in the universe.
Yeah.
And we basically we are a vessel to transfer this energy back to the person. It's almost like recharging your battery,
Love it.
and being able to release all of these stagnant pockets of dense energy that's stuck in our body.
Mm.
For example, like our brain is always firing neurons, and that's energy, which creates thought, which creates emotions. And so when we experience something stressful, that energy gets stored literally in our body. That's why a lot of people develop aches and pains that are um, undiagnosable, and they don't know where it's
Mm.
coming from. I had a client who came in, didn't tell me like much about what's going on with her, which is totally fine. Your body speaks for you at that point.
Right.
And at the end of the session, I asked her, I was like, "Is something going on with your left ankle? Like, there's a lot of dense energy there." And she
Yeah.
just her jaw dropped and looked at me. She's like, "Oh my God!" She said that she got injured when she was a kid, never told anyone. She doesn't even like
Wow.
walk differently, but she has pain.
Yeah.
And she was so shocked that I could feel that. And I
You
was
could
like,
sense
yeah,
it.
well, it's your body. Your body is storing that energy. And I followed up with her afterwards, and that pain has subsided. It hasn't come back. And she's like,
Incredible.
fine. Yeah, that blew my mind even, and just like
Yes.
how powerful it can be. A lot of the sessions,
Yeah.
I'm mind blown by what happens afterwards.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for really creating this beautiful definition of energy and helping us to get more of a visual understanding. And for me, I was like really able to picture how you were describing that we all carry this unique energy and that
Hmm.
throughout the course of our life, we may pick up or, have the experience of things that disrupt our energy and that there can
Hmm.
be these stagnant and dense pockets and places where energy gets stuck. And so
Hmm.
this work can be so transformational in helping to really like go into those places, be able
Yeah.
to share and offer a healing energy to be able to really remove some of that density, that stagnant
Hmm.
energy and open us up more to returning to
Yes.
that authentic frequency, that energy that
Yeah.
is truly ours. And
Yeah.
so I'd love to, and I really appreciate you sharing that specific example from a client that you have worked with, and feel like it would be great to hear a little bit more about what a session with you is like, and who you really recommend being able to connect with you and work with you.
Yeah, so my sessions, I was holding a bunch in person before the pandemic, and I've moved completely almost to remote work, which is amazing because I started connecting with people all over the world, and it really just
Mm.
shows how powerful a human being is and how you connect so deeply, even thousands and thousands of miles away.
Incredible.
And so the sessions are normally 90 minutes long. It's like a 15-minute intro intake to an hour session of energy healing, and then another debriefing afterwards. It's super simple. The client just needs to be as comfortable as possible, which is like my favorite thing. I'm like, you don't need to do
Yes.
anything. Like, this is your time to relax.
Mm.
You can just hang out and just be you and just feel who you are outside of everything
Yes.
that is telling you who to be.
Mm.
Um, during Reiki, it puts you into such a deep meditation that it almost feels like you're going to sleep. So I always tell people, I was like, this is nap time. Usually, like as an adult, you get nap time, and this is for you to just go wherever
Yes.
your body is taking you. And a lot of the times, people will either get visuals or feel sensations like tingling, pulsing,
Yeah.
and that's literally them feeling their frequency.
Right.
So during the session, I usually send them a link to a sound bath because that also has
Nice.
frequencies that help with the healing.
Right.
Um, in person, I'll use sprays or incense for aromatherapy. I usually have people lay down, be as comfortable as possible,
Mm.
and to close their eyes. And I do like a small little meditation to guide them into just like a calmness so that a lot of people surprisingly they ask like, oh, what should I be thinking about?
Ah.
And yeah, and so I tell them that you don't need to clear your mind and you don't need to not
Mm.
think of anything, just observe like a story, like see what thoughts are coming up. It's whatever your
Right.
body is trying to process at this moment. It doesn't need to be
Mm.
scary. You don't need to be attached to the things that are coming up. It's really
Yeah.
your body just trying to move past it and move through all of that density that's coming up for you during the session.
Yes. I really appreciate how you described, really creating that cozy and safe and just comfortable environment for people to just be. This is your adult nap time.
Yeah.
I love that. And giving that full permission for people to just be who they are outside of everything that they're being told to be. And how that in and of itself can just like, ooh, welcome such a deep breath, right? Allow
Mhm.
us to
Mhm.
really relax and drop in. And so I'm curious. I know from your bio I got to learn a little bit about your story, but um want to know more about this intersection between nursing and your work as a bodywork practitioner, and how do these modalities really interact and support each other?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey as a practitioner. I've always been into integrative medicine just because of my background. And once I became a nurse, it's so scientific, and there a lot of people think this is like pseudoscience. It's not real. And so it's been very interesting to explain what I'm doing to people around me because they
Yeah,
don't,
I'm sure.
they think it's almost like witchcraft. And so it's interesting because I take my nursing background into my bodywork practice and vice
Mm,
versa.
yeah.
As a nurse, that I've been working for 7 years as a nurse, and over the years, I've just learned or noticed that there's been such a big gap.
Mm,
In hospitals, we look at people like body parts. We diagnose, we
right.
treat the heart, we treat the lungs, but we don't ever come back to the whole person. And in nursing
Sure.
school, we learn about like how we have to um, really focus on the whole being and include like the mental aspect of it, but it gets lost oftentimes. And
Okay.
so for me, I can have a patient who has a blood pressure of 200 over 100, very, very high,
Mm,
and they're clearly anxious, and it's not a blood pressure issue.
yeah.
Um, and so now that I'm doing like this body work practice, like I will take the time to sit with my patients and work
Mm,
on that mental, emotional anxiety part rather than giving them medication or trying to push all of these other things on them, and to really help them feel grounded in their body and feel empowered to be more resilient in themselves and to feel safe and find like a home in themselves rather than trying to like run away from themselves.
wow. How incredible. And I think, yeah, it is really challenging though to be a being, to be someone who is working, at the intersection of these two places. And as you described, maybe having some pushback or resistance, or people doubting the validity of Reiki, of integrative medicine, um, but still feeling so committed to this work, and being able to find like what are the creative ways where you can take this less mainstream, but incredibly healing and transformational work, and be able to be this bridge person, or
Mhm.
this way shower, this translator of how this can be integrated into Western medicine, into the more traditional spaces, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
something that is so needed. I mean, has always been needed, but I think like
Yeah.
so needed at this particular time on the planet. And that there
Yeah.
is such deep healing work that gets to happen now. And, in what ways can we each be plugging into the things that we are uniquely, gifted with and have beautiful capacity around, and being able to find those new, like, different, innovative, creative ways to be able to offer and share that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the word translator because I tell my clients that I'm basically just translating whatever your body is telling me. Like we've become
Mhm.
so disconnected from our bodies that we like lost the language of understanding all the signals and the warning signs and the happy signals that our body is trying to
Right,
communicate with us. And
right,
when
right.
we go into this energy field that is you, your body literally tells you if it feels a little tight in your chest and you feel like you're having trouble breathing, like there's anxiety
Mm,
sitting there, like let's move through that. If you're feeling like you're floating, it means you're in a good place and you feel super grounded, and this is just going to make you feel so much better.
love.
Um, yeah, and the debriefing portion of my sessions is all just me and my clients kind of communicating on a conscious level and connecting the subconscious back into the conscious realm so that they can take whatever has been shifted and they can start noticing it
Mm.
reflected in their external world.
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful too, the way that you were speaking to the fact that this is kind of it's a lost language. We've lost the language of understanding the ways that our bodies are always seeking to communicate with us. And that
Hmm.
this is a really powerful tool for being able to take some of that material that's like unconscious and making it conscious in how you're
Yeah.
debriefing and communicating with clients. And so it would be great to also hear about some of the ways that you are currently growing and learning, and what some of your growth edges are in your life and your spiritual practice.
Yeah. So it's been a wild journey. I think for a while I was living kind of just as a shell of myself. I didn't know what I was. I didn't know my energy. I
Mm,
didn't know the capabilities of my being. And so I didn't have good boundaries. I kind of just tried to fit into the shoes of whatever was told of me to be. And
yeah.
so since my journey, right now I'm kind of going through an expansion of embodiment. Um,
Mm,
I realized that a couple of years ago I was traveling a lot, and it was more as an escape rather than an adventure or joy, or it was more like
sure.
I needed to get out of here. And so I kept traveling, and it got to a point where it was unsustainable. I was like, what am
Mm,
I doing? I'm so tired, I'm working really hard, I'm traveling all the time, I'm not really grounded in any space, especially in
yeah.
myself. And this is the first trip that I kind of was like, oh, I don't really need to go on this trip. And I feel very happy just like being in the life that I've created at home. And
Amazing.
I felt so grateful for that, to be able to feel that, because that's all I ever wanted. I wanted to feel
Yeah.
safe wherever I was. I wanted to feel home wherever I was. And
Mm,
so right now I'm just trying to embody that inner peace and that ease, and to continue to um, flow in my frequency so that I am able to, I think, just stay resilient in my being rather than
mm,
being triggered and ungrounded and losing my way almost, which happens
sure.
and is totally fine. But as I'm learning more tools and skills, it's definitely helped ease that fluctuation. The highs and lows aren't as extreme. And so for me, I think for my spiritual practice, at least, it's really being authentically
Mm.
myself.
Yes. Oh, and it's really, really expansive to even just hear about your own journey with this, and some of the ways that you kind of, were adapting or finding these coping mechanisms, right? And now knowing that there are new and different ways to be able to tend to yourself and find
Yeah.
those more resilient ways of being that do feel more authentic to you and don't feel as though you're reaching for those different aspects of like escape, right?
Yeah.
And I think that really does tie in nicely with some of the themes of this summit. And I'm curious to hear about how the ways in which you're growing and the ways in which you're expanding more into your business and your soul gifts, um, how that has influenced your relationship with abundance since stepping into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because I don't think people realize entrepreneurship is actually the deepest self-healing journey you could possibly go on. Because if you have any sort of insecurity or doubt about yourself, that is going to show up in your business. And so if
Yeah.
you do not work on you first, like your business
Mm,
will not be sustainable. You're not, well, especially in such a healing or spiritual business that is sacred.
mm.
It's not just about selling a product. It's not just about making money. It's it's your time and energy, and you're holding all this space for other people that you need to take seriously. And if you need to know where your limit is in order to be able to even say like, oh no, like I need to take a break so that I can serve you better, and I need to serve
Yes.
myself first. And so it's been the most uprooting, groundbreaking, foundation building journey, to build this practice and to continue to grow. I think, especially as an Asian American,
Mm,
you're constantly told like you need to produce, you need to excel, you need to get all these certificates and all of these
right.
things. And the beautiful thing about like this spiritual healing or like this mental healing is that you find your own pace and you find what works for you, and it's
Right.
so individualized. There is no one size fits all in this. We are all
Yes.
rising as a collective, but we are individually rising to on
Yes.
our own pace, and that is the way it should be. There is no race. Life is not a race. We are all here to just go back home to ourselves. And I think that is truly like the journey that we're all on. We seek for things and we think that once we get this job, once we get this um, status or house or whatever it is, that we'll be happy. And we think that destination happiness is the answer. But truly turning inwards and feeling safe in our bodies gives us all of that. It gives us that abundance. It opens us
Right.
up to receiving that abundance.
Ah, yes. And I really like the fact that we're able to have this conversation too, because I think so many um, participants in this summit and just so many clients and community members that I've connected with are folks who are aspiring entrepreneurs who have this
Mhm.
big and beautiful and expansive vision for what they want to create in their lives. And sometimes that can cause us to um, really plug into this like hustle energy, this
Mhm.
grinding
Mhm.
energy. And
Yeah.
I think it's so important the way that you spoke about really taking care of ourselves and
Mhm.
taking that seriously and serving ourselves first in order to be able to have a business that's sustainable, where we can
Mhm.
find our own pace, operate at our own pace, and knowing that there is no one size fits all. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure to compare ourselves to others or copy these other strategies or things that others are using. But it's right, as you said, right? As you said so beautifully, like this is not a race. There's not one singular destination that we're all trying to get to. It's like feeling into and finding the pace that works for you, the strategies that work for
Mhm.
you, how you can sustainably be able to operate in the world in a way that allows you to share your gifts and
Mhm.
start creating that abundance for yourself from feeling that in your own body first.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny to look back because in the beginning when I started doing Reiki, I was like, I want to give Reiki to 100 people in like 3 months. I was like giving myself all these like number goals, and
Yeah.
I did it. But then
Yeah.
afterwards, I was like, wow, I'm I'm tired. I was like,
I'm
what am I
exhausted. Yeah.
doing? Right? I was like, what am I doing? I was like, if I want this to be a long term thing, which I do, because it's
Mm.
something that I can't believe when I get to hold space for people. Like I can't believe I get to do that. Like it just feels like complete alignment. It feels like
Yes.
complete embodiment. And so if that's something that I want long term, it's not something that I need to rush. It's going to be there.
Right.
And my views on how I even share or like market, it's so different because I know that I don't need to I don't need to keep grabbing, right? I'm not sinking. I'm
Mm.
not like trying to swim for air. Like I'm floating. And so it's all there already for me
Yeah.
and for anybody. Like it's just a shift of your mindset. And it's um I wanted to share how I was reading this book. I think it's called The Body Keeps Score.
Mm.
And it's all about like how your brain works, and it mentions how the brain is basically a map that is simultaneously being created and guiding us. And
Whoa.
so, which I think is it's such a great perspective of how we envision ourselves, even because we're constantly
Right.
evolving.
Mm.
But we have some sort of landmark to refer to. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of the landmarks are when we were younger. And so we didn't have the best tools to move through those situations. And we don't realize that. And we still refer back to that like set of
As
skills
our
and be
map.
like, this is how we have to go through this situation. And so once you start diving back in and reassessing and realigning and letting all of that go, and you're like, oh, I can look at this completely differently. I can show
Yeah.
up in this space differently. I don't need to show up the way I did 5, 10 years ago. And you get to recreate your map, and you get to redirect where you're going and rewrite your own story. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for weaving in that teaching. And I think that's going to be so supportive for people to be able to think about the mind in that way and
Mm-hmm.
to be able to really step into that place of empowered choice and knowing that we do
Mm-hmm.
have the ability, neuroplasticity is real, right? Like
Yes, yes,
our brains can change. And that's something that we have the ability to tap into
yes.
and would love to actually start to weave our conversation to a close by asking you the question that I love to ask all of our guests, which is what does soulful abundance mean to you?
I love this question. When I read it, I was like, wow, this is such a good thing to think about. Soulful abundance to me, um, just feels like authentic expansion. I
Mm,
think a lot of the times we live being small and hiding ourselves and trying to blend in. But soulful abundance feels like an opening, like a cracking opening of your heart, of your soul, of your mind, and really just stepping out into the world like this is me. I think the more I discover myself, I'm understanding more of what my hard yeses are and my hard nos are, and that just
mm,
makes it so much more easeful on a day to day to be able to be at peace with myself and not have to be confused at my decisions and be unsure of like, oh, is this what I should be doing? It's like, oh no, like I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing because I just feel like that abundance in me, and all the things that I feel aligned to will come to me as long as I am able to say yes and no to yourself.
that deep self trust,
Yes.
beautiful. And wondering if there's any other kind of final thoughts or closing words that you'd like to leave with this audience.
Um, I I think I would like to share the reason why I even started going into deep diving into body work is because I felt so unsafe in my body. And
Mm,
I'm very empathic as well. And so I was starting to feel everyone's emotions and everything around me. And we're all living like we're all children in adult bodies in a way. And we're all just wanting to feel loved and cared
mm,
for and tended to and be seen
right.
and validated. And so I just want to tell everyone that you are seen and you're beautiful and you're worthy of doing the work, not for anybody else, but for you because you just deserve it. You already have
Yes.
it within you, and it's really just like decluttering all of
Mm.
the external noise and external things that we've been hoarding, and now like we can just release and be at ease with ourselves.
Yes. Love, love, love being able to end on that note. And I'm so grateful for you sharing your time and just your warm, beautiful, loving energy with us
Thank
today.
you.
I know that this has been such a joy for me to connect with you, and I'm excited to be able to share this with our audience. And so, for folks who want to stay connected with you, how can they do that?
Yes, so I'm mostly on Instagram. My Instagram is Goldie period ventures. It's not your usual influencer businessy Instagram, but it's just fully authentically me. And it's the best way for you to connect with me. I also have a link for appointments on there in my bio, or you can email me at gchoi6@gmail.com and I'll get back to you.
Yay. Thank you so much, Goldie. Thank you for joining us. And for everyone tuning in, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for our next set of interviews. Be well,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye. Thank you.